welcome to Sagittarius season. Thanks for tuning in to the Embodied Astrology podcast. I'm Renee Sills. I'm a consulting astrologer, embodiment educator, and the creator of Embodied Astrology. If you enjoy my readings, make sure to pre-order your 2025 Year Ahead Expanded Horoscope now. The Embodied Astrology yearly forecasts for each sign go in depth with the most important transits, offering embodied suggestions for making the most of the opportunities and working skillfully with the challenges. A special treat for the 2025 readings will be sign-specific meditations that accompany your forecasts. You'll be able to use them throughout the year to increase and deepen your alignment with the upcoming year's transformative influences. You might also be interested in your 2024 annual reading, which still has lots of important information for the near and far future and prompts to reflect on the past. The 2024 readings are now discounted by 75%, and you can pre-order your 2025 readings or access this year's reading by clicking the link below. Embodied Astrology is much more than horoscopes and podcasts. It is actually a movement that is full of people who are interested in the ways that astrology can help us more deeply embody our earthly and universal intelligence. We offer ongoing classes, workshops, trainings, and community process spaces where we practice astrology as a language for living. We blend astrology with art, science, healing methodologies, and activist strategies. We hold space for ourselves and each other to expand and explore symbolism, mythology, and meaning. We queer, unpack, and evolve this ancient technology in service of our present needs and future potentials. If this sounds like something you've been looking for, or if my readings resonate for you and you want to take them to the next level, I hope you'll join us sometime. Stick around after your horoscope, and I'm going to tell you more about some of what we offer, how we work, and why I think embodied astrology is a great space for you too. If this work benefits you and you want to help me keep giving these monthly readings for free and help us keep all of our offerings available with financial accessibility and sliding scale, please take a moment right now to like, follow, and subscribe to our channels. This is the #1 way you can help us grow. This season's horoscopes are intuitive offerings for each sign of the zodiac. I hope that they serve and support you in some way. Listen for your sun, moon, and rising signs, and remember that not everything is for everyone, so take what works, leave the rest, and make the meaning that's most meaningful for you. Thank you so much for being here, and now, onto your horoscopes. Hello, Aries. Welcome to Sagittarius season. Sagittarius is a fire sign like Aries, so as we move into the season, I hope that you get a little fuel for your fire. This is also a season that is full of retrograde influences, including a Mercury retrograde that will begin and end within Sagittarius season, but has a shadow period. That's before and after the actual retrograde, where a planet is moving direct over the same part of the sky where the retrograde happens. And that shadow period extends backward into Scorpio season and forward into Capricorn season. And then we also have a Mars retrograde. We enter into Sagittarius season in the shadow of Mars retrograde. Mars stations retrograde on December 5th. It doesn't station direct until the end of February 2025. And this is a really important one for you to be working with because Mars is considered to be the ruling planet of Aries. And the energetic influences of Mars are going to have a pretty remarkable influence on all of our Aries placements. So everyone has Aries in your chart, and whether you are an Aries sun, moon, or rising, or other Aries placements, this is definitely a season, a couple of seasons with Mars retrograde that you want to be tracking. So let's get into it. The first week and a half of Sagittarius season, we are in the waning moon cycle. There is a new moon in Sagittarius on November 30th. Whenever we're working with the waning lunar phase, there is the recommendation to really allow ourselves to be a little bit more internal. The waning phase describes a closure or ending of a particular cycle. And you can think about just every month, the lunar cycle, the moon goes through the entire zodiac. And so there's a natural expansion and contraction of energy that you might feel around the lunations. But also you might think about where you were this time of year and what has been happening for you over different cycles that you might be tracking with the moon. Now, this particular new moon is coming a couple of days after Mercury stations retrograde, which is on November 25th, and a couple of days before Mars stations retrograde. And Mercury and Mars are both moving through your fellow fire signs. Mercury is in Sagittarius, Mars is in Leo. And the buildup to their respective retrograde cycles is also bringing a kind of influx or surge of energy. So it's a kind of interesting dynamic that we have, where on the one hand, there is a new moon influence and planets are stationing retrograde. And so the typical considerations are slow down, be mindful, be really careful about the choices that you're making, because you might not have all of the information that you need in order to move forward, especially when it comes to where Mercury is currently traveling in your solar ninth house. This is a place that has to do with travel and with your kind of big vision and life plans. And if you have a feeling of wanting to go on an adventure of some kind, that could definitely be an actual adventure that could definitely be a physical adventure where your body moves from one place to another. But it could also be an adventure that you undertake in your mind or in your spirit. There might be plans or ideas that you have about new cycles of growth for yourself, new educational opportunities, or learning paths that you might want to be embarking on. And this is a really great period of time for research. Retrogrades always ask us to apply the RE prefix, and research is definitely one of my favorite ones. It asks us to remain with something, to not rush forward, but to actually rest into the questions that we might have about something, to consider our various options, to review and reflect upon what our desires are. And especially because these retrogrades are happening in the fire element and you are a fire sign, desire and inspiration and motivation, and then the ubiquitous term of energy are really, really important to be considering. So as we move into Sagittarius season, I think a lot of you are looking at the future and you are thinking about, how do you move from where you are now to where you imagine that you could go? And what are the paths that could take you there? There's also a feeling for me of wanting to reclaim, another great retrograde word, some of your energy and some of your vitality. And there might be a sensation that a lot of you are having where you're realizing that the ways that you used to feel inspired and excited and motivated maybe don't turn you on so much anymore. And there are new ideas, there are new ventures and curiosities that you have that are calling to you, and you want to move towards them. And during this period of time, you probably want to fill up your cup, so to speak, with a lot of options. This is a great way to use retrograde energy, is to give yourself more options. One of the ways that people kind of get tossed around by retrogrades and maybe don't always feel so great inside of them is often when they have narrowed their options and made really definitive choices about something, and they have entered into some kind of space where they're not as flexible or they're not as adaptable to change. And so if we want to work with retrograde, then we want to prepare ourselves to adapt. We want to be flexible in how we're thinking about things and what we think might happen, because over the course of the next several months, there will be circumstances that are coming up that might change your mind about what it is that you want to be doing. And also there might be new opportunities that you actually can't see from where you are. If you're listening to this in Sagittarius season, especially right around the beginning of Sag season, you might just not know what is actually available to you yet. And so please, even if you feel, and in some ways, especially if you feel a lot of conviction and a lot of certainty, and you're like, this is definitely the way. I'm not saying it's not the way at all. I think that your passion and conviction is probably really important. All I'm saying is hold that certainty like a treasure. Hold it in your heart and just move slowly and move in a way that is generous for yourself in the future, by giving yourself time to make some decisions and look at what options are available to you. Now, I also want to give you this recommendation because one of the kind of astrological observations of Mars retrograde cycles is that because Mars will trine the sun shortly before it stations retrograde, there can frequently be a feeling with Mars retrograde of something really speeding up and actually feeling a lot of conviction and feeling a lot of certainty and having a lot of energy to move in one particular direction. And then as Mars stations retrograde, quick reversals can happen. We might meet a roadblock. There might actually be a total shift in desire. There might be information that comes in that all of a sudden really changes our perspective on what it is that we're trying to do. There may be circumstances with other people that are part of the plans, etc. So moving into Sagittarius season, I think a lot of you are really feeling like a path is calling you. And I don't know what that path is, but the feeling of the path is growth. The feeling of the path is expansion. And for a lot of you, the feeling of the path, I think, feels very much rooted in some kind of what I'm going to say is a personal philosophy and a feeling about what your life is about or what you want it to be about. So your beliefs and your morals and your ethics and your worldviews and ideologies are leading you in a particular direction. Your mind is opening up to some new ways of seeing your life and seeing your life possibilities. This is awesome. Please give yourself some time so that you can really build out the best possible route of action for yourself. And if you're thinking about timelines, then I would say you definitely want to be working with adaptability throughout the Mercury retrograde cycle when it comes to especially plans for travel and the ways that you are, if you're thinking about upcoming opportunities for yourself and ways that you might expand your life or turn your path in a new direction, whatever that might mean to you, especially if you're thinking about educational opportunities, especially if you are a writer or a speaker or an advisor of some kind or a teacher, if you're thinking about putting yourself out in some kind of new and different way, please use the retrograde cycle. It's a really important cycle for reflection and review. And I would say give yourself at least until Mercury stations direct, which happens in Sagittarius season with the Gemini full moon, same day, December 15th. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But you could also give yourself all the way until the beginning of 2025. As we get into the first week of the year, Mercury is finishing its shadow, so it's all the way out of its retrograde cycle. It'll be moving into a part of your chart that is about concrete manifestation of kind of like life path energy. And I see that you have some good motivation and support coming in around that time, though there are some other considerations with Mars retrograde that I'm going to talk to you about in Capricorn season. But staying in Sagittarius season, the first half of Sag season especially, so from the 21st until about December 5th, chill, friends, chill. If you are feeling enthusiastic right now about some kind of new opportunity, or alternately, if you are feeling driven, right? Like some kind of force is compelling you in a new direction. It might not always feel enthusiastic. It might feel like necessity. If you have the option to take it slow and take your time to gather different options, please, please, please do that. If you are working with deadlines and you have to make some kind of decision, do whatever you can to shape the considerations around that decision for potential review over the course of, let's say, the next month. See if you can have some kind of contract, if you're making those kinds of decisions, that allow for a review. See if you can, if you have to put down money on something, like maybe you can put down less of a deposit, or be really clear about what the stipulations are if you change your mind. If you're just thinking about something, just pause on, pressing the go button. Just give yourself a little bit of time. Now, when we get into December, we're getting into Mars station retrograde. And again, that happens on December 5th. And Mars, once more, this is your ruling planet. So the idea here is that a core component of your vitality, your life force, Mars represents interest. It is a symbol of the reason that you get out of bed in the morning. You are driven by something. It might be a bodily need. It might be a life need, but there is some kind of action that is initiated. And when we're working with the symbol of Mars, particularly in relationship to Aries, we are working with initiation of life force, catalyzation of life force. So Mars is stationing retrograde in Leo, your fellow fire sign. Leo is a symbol of the heart energy. It has to do with actualization of the self. And in this symbolic language of astrology, to fully actualize as our own unique beings in this world of multidimensionality and multi-relationality, where we are totally embedded and invested in relationships, the feeling here is that we get to give our gifts. We get to truly be who we are in ways that are received by our families, friends, communities, and society. We find our right place. And on a fundamental level, I think that everybody is looking for that. We all, making a gross generalization here, but I believe this. I believe that every person deeply craves a place of belonging where they get to be who they are. And who we are is complex, right? We are all full of idiosyncrasies and paradoxes. We have inherited all kinds of baggage and trauma that we don't know what to do with, and we're working it out. We are creating all kinds of baggage and trauma for ourselves throughout our human lives and in our relationships. But that's also part of the fun of being alive, right? As the Buddhists say, life is suffering, but we can be here with presence to really appreciate the beauty of life. And one of the ways that we can most profoundly appreciate the beauty of life is when we feel that we belong in life. And the ways that a lot of people feel the deepest sense of belonging is when they get to be themselves. And there's something that is coming up for me about this Mars retrograde that is leading me to ask you, what are you living for? That is a question to chew on for a while. That's a question to reflect with, to journal with, maybe to take it into the full Mars retrograde journey. I mentioned a little bit ago that Mars is stationing direct in the end of February, on February 23rd, but Mars doesn't actually finish its shadow phase until May 1st of 2025. And in 2025, we have the outer planets Neptune and Saturn both coming into Aries. And Neptune is going to be there for a considerable chunk of time. This is like over a decade. Saturn will be there for about 3 years. This is a really significant astrological circumstance that you will never experience again in your entire life, that most signs probably won't experience in their lives, to have the co-presence of Saturn and Neptune entering together. This is marking a radical shift in collective energy and in personal energy, and definitely for Aries placements. I'm going to talk a lot about that in your 2025 year head reading. So if you're interested in getting a bigger arc for the upcoming future, definitely check that out. But what I will say is that there are some big questions emerging for you right now that have to do with this question that I just posed to you, which is, what are you living for? And in that question, of course, there are 1,000 tangential side questions. And these are questions that have to do with your values. They have to do with your passions and your desires. They have to do with your relationships and who and what you feel yourself as a commitment to. Over the last 16 years, since 2008, Pluto, the outer planet Pluto, has been in the sign Capricorn. And another significant shift that's happening currently is that Pluto has moved now into Aquarius, where it's going to be for the next 20 years. As Pluto moves into Aquarius, Mars, stationing retrograde, is opposing that placement. And over the last 16 years, where Pluto has been in Capricorn, has been in a relationship with Aries called a square. So Capricorn is a season that starts with the solstice, and Aries is a season that starts with the equinox. Y'all are 90 degrees apart from each other, and that's a really important relationship in the chart wheel that is set up on quadrants. So Capricorn holds what we might consider to be the heaven of your chart, or the highest point in the chart, which has a lot to do with career and vocation and who you think you are in the world and who you're trying to be. And Capricorn as a sign is also oftentimes kind of conservative, traditional. It's really anchored in devotional dedication and integrity. There is a lot of relationship that wants to happen there, especially to the past and to the legacies that we might feel ourselves a part of. But now that Pluto has moved into Aquarius, it's entering into an energy that is about the future. And it is about actually breaking with the past. And that doesn't mean totally disregarding everything that's valuable and tossing it in the trash, but it does mean a willingness to change course and capacity to take what has been valuable and allow it to evolve and feel it shaped differently. So I'm gonna assume here that a lot of you are coming out of a cycle, maybe a 16-year cycle, where you have been working really hard to establish yourself, to establish your life, to build your life and your sense of self and who you are in the world in some really significant and important ways. But I'm also going to say that I think that you are really changing right now. And whether or not you feel complete with this last cycle, whether or not you feel like you succeeded at it, in some ways you have to let it go now. And you have to look at what's next for you. And what's next is a world that is rapidly changing, right? What's next isn't just your evolving, shifting interests. It is a set of interrelationships with evolving, shifting circumstances and conditions. And how you want to meet the moment is evolving. It is shifting. And so this question of what are you living for is a question that is also asking you to update how you might have answered that question even a year or two ago. Definitely how you might have answered that question 16 years ago. So the second half of Sagittarius season is definitely a period of time where I hope that you can give yourself a lot of appreciation for where you have come from and what you have done. I hope that you can give yourself grace and kindness. If you feel that you get a little bit sidetracked or you don't really know why you're moving forward with something, or you feel that your energy and your interests and desires shift, I hope that you can give yourself a lot of care if the circumstances of your life that are totally outside of your control reshape themselves in some way that mean that you actually need to become more internal with your energy. There's a feeling for me of a pivot, and the sensation here is you need to come home. And I'm saying that with my definition of home being your heart and your body. My definition of home right now is where you know who you are and you belong with you because you are being honest with yourself. You're not trying to be someone who you're not. You're not trying to get external validation through performing something that you think other people want you to be. You are coming home to yourself. There is a truth and an integrity that you are landing in, and that might need some time. And there might need to be some kind of emotional allowance that you give yourself to feel what needs to be felt in order for you to let go in ways that allow you to take the value of what you have done already and transform it into the offering that you're going to be giving in the future. So the Gemini full moon on December 15th is the day that Mercury stations direct. It is also 10 days after Mars has stationed retrograde. And I want to say that it feels like this is a really powerful moment for you to be asking yourself the question of, what's life all about for you? What are you living for? And the answers that you come up with need to be really deeply answers that come from your heart, that come from your gut, that come from your sense of real solidarity with your own spirit. And I'm going to say a commitment to actualizing in all of the ways that you can in this one and precious life, however long you might have left of it. Know that it is temporary, right? We are just here for a moment. So be here. Be here for the moment and allow yourself the time and space to make the choices that will most deeply celebrate what you have to give to this moment. Aries, I love you. I hope any and all of that feels supportive to this season. I'm wishing you all the best in Sagittarius season and beyond. Thanks for listening to your Sagittarius season reading. If this horoscope resonated for you, please show your support by liking, following, and subscribing, and by sharing this work with your friends and community. I also hope you'll consider working more deeply with us at Embodied Astrology. Because we time our classes, workshops, and events with current transits, we're always offering to the present moment, and we're usually right on time. Every month and throughout the seasons, we engage the creative, experimental, and experiential aspects of current astrology. And our work is always given with an ethos of generosity and accessibility. Our classes, workshops, and series are available with scholarship and sliding scale, and no one is turned away for lack of funds. We do rely on your support and presence to keep us going, though. So help us sustain and support our work by making a one-time or recurring donation, becoming a member, or signing up for one of our offerings. Our offerings this season are exciting, and I hope that you'll join me for some of them. Every Monday, I offer a class called Somatic Space, where we prepare ourselves to work with the astrology of the week ahead through gentle healing body practices, breathwork, meditation, and visualization. You can drop in once to try it out, or if you become a member, you'll also get access to the past class video archive and Tea Time, a monthly conversational space where we learn and share how astrology is moving through our lives and make great friends and build community in the process. Over the course of Sagittarius season, we're also offering a number of unique workshops that are times to help us meet this moment of change and transformation that Sagittarius season is bringing. On Sunday, December 1st, Embodied Astrology is honored to offer a new moon somatic grief ritual and ceremony of connection with ancestors, elements, and the earth, facilitated by Ekua Adisa. Ekua is a grief guide, death care worker, medicine person, medium, world shaper, and ritualist who will be joining our facilitator, Sherry Taylor, in her Embodied Astrology series exploring the femme and queer faces of Saturn, Salve e Coagula. Sherry will be joined again on the solstice, December 21st, for a year's end writing ritual co-led with Janata Petrus. This is an opportunity to reflect with the astrology and the personal and collective lessons of 2024 before we transition into a new calendar year. In between these two sessions with Sherry, you can also join Janata for December 15th's Full Moon Artistic Alchemy session, where you'll learn more about the Sagittarius-Gemini axis in your chart and practice tapping into this energetic polarity through prompts and personal reflections that guide support for living and expressing your courageous creativity throughout the seasons. Finally, on December 7th, the day that Neptune stations direct from its 6-month retrograde, please join us for the final session in the Nebula Lab series hosted by Gabs 404. Over the past 6 months, the Nebula Lab has been a place where we've been learning about Neptune's current transit in the last degrees of the zodiac through art, culture, media, embodiment, history, and technology. In this culminating session, Gabs is joined by Danny D'Amelia. Danny is an artist and educator working at the intersections of performance, visual art, radical pedagogy, and social, relational, ecological justice. Danny will guide us in an exploration of radical intimacy, unnumbing, and expanding our awareness of interrelatedness beyond the human realms. These are, of course, some of the qualities and conditions which we'll most need in the year ahead and the years to come, so I truly hope that you can join us. You can find more information about everything and everyone I just mentioned in the show notes or through the study section at embodiedastrology.com. If you can't make our live events, but you still want to participate, your registration always includes recording access. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening and engaging. I truly hope to see you in an embodied astrology space soon. Bye for now.